Hello, my name is George Bekmezian, and I am a candidate for the Utah House Legislative District 52 seat. That election is going to be taking place on October 26th at the Harriman City Hall, and it will be county delegates of the Republican Party that will be participating in that election. Today I want to address something that has been coming up quite regularly as I speak to the delegates. And this is a controversial topic, but as I strive to do with other topics, I'm going to be very transparent and explain my position and hopefully convey to you in an effective way why I feel the way I do about this. And this topic is the Second Amendment. The first thing I want to do is just read the Second Amendment to you. I have it here in front of me. I don't have it memorized, but I'm going to read it verbatim. It says, "A well-regulated militia, comma, being necessary to the security of a free state, comma, the right of the people to keep and bear arms, comma, shall not be infringed." There have been lots of interpretations of the Second Amendment. Of course, even the Supreme Court at times has had one interpretation and at different times has had a different interpretation of this amendment. But I think that it is important for us to consider the amendment and the Bill of Rights, frankly, within the context that they were created in. That context is at the conclusion of the Constitutional Convention, there was a concern voiced that we do not have a Bill of Rights as a part of that Constitution. So there was not explicit protections of certain individual rights for people. And those protections were from both state and federal governments. At least that is my understanding and my interpretation. You also need to keep in mind that most of the states within their state constitutions had language that was either very similar or exactly the same as what is in the Second Amendment today. And the purpose of the Second Amendment then was not to allow people or give people a right to go hunting or give people a right to simply protect themselves from, burglars and thieves and those kinds of things. It was definitely bigger than that. They were coming off of the heels of the Revolutionary War. They were just done experiencing what happens when a despotic government exercises dominion and control, and if the people did not have the ability to defend themselves and fight back, then they would not have been able to achieve the outcomes that they achieved, of course, which is independence and the founding of a new nation. So that is the context behind the Second Amendment. It is something that is part of the fiber of this nation, not because people love guns or people love killing, but because we believe that it is important for the people to be able to have a means to stand up to or defend itself from a government that has become tyrannical. The Second Amendment writes, right, the clause in that Second Amendment that says the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed is in place to provide a level of protection to the people that will allow them to protect themselves from that problem or that potential of a despotic runaway government. There are other precedences in the history of the world where the Second Amendment rights that we enjoy were not available to them or were taken away, and then the people were persecuted and horribly murdered. And the one that is the most popular that people generally think about is the Holocaust under Hitler's Germany. The people were disarmed, and over time we know what happened, right? There's also another incident in the history of this world that is less known and less talked about, frankly. And some of you know that I am of Armenian descent. And what happened was, back in the early 1900s, the Ottoman Empire disarmed the Armenians and over time put forth an effort to eradicate the world of Armenians who could not defend themselves. And so this is an issue that is in a unique way personal to me. I don't like the arguments that I hear a lot of times people make for gun control, where they say, well, why do we need certain types of guns to go hunting? Because you could hunt with just these weapons. Or why would you need this type of weapon to protect yourself from a burglary? The fact is that the purpose of the Second Amendment is not the right to go hunting or the right to protect me from a burglary. One more thing I want to add here is that there is certainly an argument to be made that if we had more gun restrictions, or possibly if we eradicated guns, that there would be less violence from guns. And it's possible, right? It's highly likely that that would be the case. And it's also likely that maybe violence would shift to other forms. I don't know. But what I do know is that the risk of making those kinds of changes, of restricting guns, access to guns to the people in the long term, holds a much higher risk than what we would solve in the short term. It might be 20 years, it might be 50 years, it might be 100 years later, but we owe it to our children and the future generations beyond our children to preserve the freedoms that we enjoy and give them a means to preserve those freedoms if there's an unfortunate need to do so. There was an incident just this past weekend where my daughter and I were targets of an armed robbery. I felt compelled to use my concealed carry, and I was grateful that I had that opportunity to do so. I personally believe that protecting ourselves is our responsibility. Protecting our community is our responsibility. I love the police in many, many ways. The UPD had an amazing response to my incident, but still, the first level of protection and defense lies upon me, and it is not right for the government to take that away from the people. I hope that this helps you understand a little bit more about me, about my position on this topic. I look forward to sharing more with you in personal conversations. I also look forward to the opportunity to represent you if I am privileged enough to be elected to do so. And I will follow this pattern of explaining my positions and helping you understand why I've been making the decisions that I've been making as your representative, as a legislator. Thank you very much.